Everyone, we have the matchup of the century, the debate that is going to change the Texas football world. In one corner, Eric Nahlin, sunshine pumper, positive guy. On the other end, evil Texas hater, Ian Boyd. And they are going to present their cases. Eric on the positive side, Ian to the negative side. But first, guys, you need to join InsideTexas.com. That's where the debate is always running. Also, we got team news, recruiting, analysis because the games are popping up. Get excited, guys. Get Inside Texas for $1 for your first week. As a bonus, your membership includes a complimentary year to The Athletic. Also, guys, we're a man. We're 40. Our 40th anniversary tour is coming to you if you live in Texas in a major city. Tuesday, August 26th, Houston, Texas at Big City Wings. Happy hour at 5, trivia at 7. Then come to DFW. I'll be at this Dallas one. Wednesday, August 27th at the Katy Trail Icehouse. Happy hour at 5. Thursday, back in Austin, Little Woodrow's. Happy hour at 5, trivia at 7. All of the addresses are in the description below. We want to see you. Come hang out. And hey, if you're not on the board on Inside Texas, all good. Come see us as well. All right, gentlemen. We are about to present our points. First, Eric will lead us with a preamble. I will get off the screen. I'm not going to moderate here. I'm going to allow these two gentlemen to share their points of view. And we will get the full picture here of the positives and negatives heading into the season. Eric, take it away.
Appreciate it. Ian, what the hell's your problem, man? No, I'm just kidding. Look, I'm excited. First of all, Ian and I haven't been on a video together in a long time, so this feels good. It's been a while. It's important for us to have this debate because for years on end, Ian and I have been pretty much on the same page. It's like I'll read his X's and O's and I'll pair it with the practice reports I'm getting, and it's really provided an optimistic view. He'll do the opposite. He'll read the practice reports. He'll use it to color his X's and O's, and he's come out optimistic for the most part. It seems like there's been a change in my boy since last October. I mean, the game against Georgia changed us all for at least a short period of time. I got back on track. Ian is a little bit different, and so now we're butting heads in a good way. Like there's not some huge. Ian's not saying that they're gonna, Texas is gonna miss the playoffs or there's some huge drop off. I just seem to be much more optimistic about Texas's chances, and I think Ian, though still believing that Texas will have a good year, is coloring his view a little. I think he's a little bit more critical of Texas than he is some other teams. So we're gonna get to the bottom of it. But Ian, it's very important for you for about the 5,000th time to break down Space Force, your Space Force theory, because that does color the way you look at Texas and the way you look at other teams.
Yeah, the Space Force theory is my favorite off-season tool for trying to measure teams and which teams have championship potential. It's why I was high on Texas the last 2 years and higher than most. I mean, not higher than you, because like you said, we were both pretty much simpatico, but we were both higher on Texas the last 2 years than everybody else, especially like in the national media or whatever. Everybody wants to see it first. We saw indicators that it was going the right way. My favorite indicators in the Space Force are, I believe that there are certain positions on the football field where you need elite athletes to really raise your ceiling to a championship level. And you cannot substitute for elite, skilled athletes at those positions because those positions are prone to getting caught in one-on-one matchups. And if the other team has a dude and you don't, or he's like a 0.01 percentile guy and yours just a 1.0, then you're going to struggle. And those positions are outside receiver, cornerback, they correlate, left tackle, edge, and then I added defensive tackle, which doesn't quite fit the Space Force original concept. Right. But as we've seen, elite 300-pound athletes that can dominate the middle of the field have a really outsized impact on college football games, and they're also like extremely rare and hard to get.
When you introduced Space Force theory, I think that was the hole I made at the time, was because defensive tackle, it's so close to the ball, it's easy to have a direct impact on each play, and like you said, scarcity makes it very hard to have a difference maker there. A lot of people have just solid guys, and then Texas at times has stockpiled NFL talent. Georgia and Alabama certainly over time stockpiled NFL talent is a huge advantage. Another thing about your Space Force theory, perhaps the most polarizing thing, is the absence of quarterback. And I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I think we do have some differences in that Yes, you can win with a bus driver, a game manager. But the more of a bus driver he is, the better everybody else has to be, the better the Space Force units have to be. So, Stetson Bennett, obviously you use that guy a lot as an example. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to lead last year's Georgia to a national championship, even though he won 2 at Georgia earlier in the decade. So I think there's a dynamic scale. The less Space Force you have, the better your quarterback needs to be. He better be an absolute difference maker. What do you want to respond to your quarterback theory there?
Well, yeah, I think there is a way in which a dynamic quarterback can bridge the gap a lot, but it's generally by being a hero ball runner like Riley Leonard. Like the one hesitation I had with Notre Dame last year, because Notre Dame did not match the Space Force theory because their wide receiver core was
right,
like totally not dynamic. But I was like, but if Riley Leonard can run the ball 15 to 20 times in every single playoff game, then that's a decent equalizer. And that
Penn State didn't have the receivers either.
Yeah, same thing for Penn State.
And that's two of the Final Four right there. Of course they didn't.
Well, but yeah, I mean, they didn't win the championship. And Penn State, they lost whenever they played like one of the top end teams. They went through SMU, whatever. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
And this, I mean, it's going to be the same thing with Texas. I think Texas is in better shape in some ways than Penn State was last year in these regards. But I keep butting up against. I think Texas is missing some of the components to be able to beat just anybody they meet in the field.
Right. Right.
Before we get into the specifics, though, the 2 things that I like to look at the most are wide receiver and defensive tackle. I think wide receiver is the most impactful position in the modern game. Like to your point, does Stetson Bennett win if he doesn't have Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey? No.
Right.
But the best teams tend to have a Brock Bowers or Ladd McConkey kind of guy, or a Jeremiah Smith, God forbid, right?
Right.
And then the defensive tackle is number 2 because in college it's so run oriented, and the passing game tends to be so. College passing games tend to put a lot less on the quarterback. It's more about can the receivers get open and how do you protect them. And defensive tackles have a huge impact on stopping the run game and allowing you to get a pass rush up the middle and all these other things.
Right. Would you say that works right now for Texas, where it's more reliant on the quarterback than say Sark scheming the wide receivers open? Because I think that's a little bit missed here, is that Sark tends to call these shots and you see the wide receiver wide open. It's not because the wide receiver ran right past the guy, but more often than not, it's the guy they caught the matchup that they wanted.
Sark is excellent at like using a great receiver. Like there's no concerns about. We know Sark is trying to get the best defensive tackles and wide receivers, and then he knows exactly how to use them. But I guess we can get right into this. For Texas, my worry is that their receivers are just like a year away.
Right.
And that when we hear practice reports, it sounds like Wingo is getting there and he's going to be really good. But I don't know if he's like totally fully realized with all of his route running and stuff. And then Parker sounds like he's a little more polished, but we haven't seen it. He's redshirt freshman, and you just wonder, like, if he gets like a top NFL corner on him that's like jamming him up or hitting him in the right spots in his route, is he quite ready at the highest level?
Yeah. My counter to that would be, Sark obviously knows he needs a wide receiver. His offense is going to sputter, like he understands the importance every bit as well as you do. They were waiting for a portal to go in, but they weren't reaching for one either. They took Mosley just when they realized the other guys weren't going to go in, but they weren't feeling the pressure to go out and get a guy. They want to develop these young talents. And I think you're not giving him the benefit of the doubt on his understanding of how important it is for Ryan Wingo to be a star, or Parker Livingston to be a credible number 2 or number 3 receiver. And you're not accounting for the player development that we've seen. Nobody expected Matthew Goldman. Everybody's talking about Isaiah Bond. Matthew Golden's the guy that ends up going in the first round. Everybody was talking about Xavier Worthy. They identified A.D. Mitchell when he had 17 catches the previous year, and went and made him a second rounder. Talent-wise, probably should have been a first rounder. So these breakouts happen with so much regularity. And I know your preference here is talking about outside receivers. DeAndre Moore on a slot fade is going to be an outside receiver when it comes to where he ends up in the end zone. And so he's going to have a breakout too. So I think you're underrating the Texas wide receivers. I think it requires projection for me to be right. Obviously, last year's criticisms are the last things that we have of them. But I think if you just use basic projection, like we've seen from Sark in the past in player development, and then the fact that you have a quarterback that is much more tailored to throw the ball over the top, I'm actually pretty excited about the wide receivers.
I think it's possible you'll be right and I'll be wrong on this. I don't feel like super strong that Livingston and Wingo are not it. I err a little bit on, like, the one thing about those other guys that Sark just killed with, except for Bond, is that they were older and they were in that perfect window for a college guy with maturity where they finally start to look at what's next in life, you know? For me, that was actually like after college before I started to be like, wait, what am I doing again?
Yeah, that was when I had a kid at 40. So let me, and this is part of where I think my value comes in, because I understand Ryan Wingo. I've got some keen insight on how that kid is wired, and he loves football. He's a very hard worker. He's a better route runner than I think that we saw last year. Like, I've seen him run routes. It was on grass, of course, but he has all the coordination and the tools to become a much more complete receiver than just sort of that machine we saw running across the field last year. And then Livingston, I've seen him in person. I've got some confirmation bias on that kid because I was high on him as a recruit, actually. He's got the speed, but he's got really good body control. He moves a lot like a smaller receiver when it comes to route running. He's making plays with body control on the sidelines, tapping his toes, uses a massive catch radius. I think he's going to have a very good season as a number 3 and I think he's a future NFL draft pick. It's not just a guy that's just going to make plays to move the sticks. I think he's going to be a playmaker. I think that, if I have trust in Sark, which I think he's earned at this point, that I think the wide receivers are actually going to end up being a strength.
Probably not too far apart on this. I think they will actually. I think they're going to be really good. I don't even think that they're like I had some people on the board that were like, "You don't think the receivers are good? Receivers are a weakness at Texas." No. I want to see elite at receiver.
Right.
I for sure in 2026, I feel like it's like going to be a lock that Texas is going to be a front runner here. 2025 is a big maybe for me.
I think Wingo has the second highest upside out of every skill player, NFL upside out of all the skill players outside of Arch, and so I'm quite bullish there. Another one that you have importance on is D tackle, and I'm not sure you're reading the practice reports. I love the group that they have now. There might not be that first round quick twitch guy, but defensive tackle didn't keep Texas from winning the national championship last year. Vernon was a good player, Alfred was a good player, but they weren't special. And they've got a lot of defensive pieces around them. But what I like the most is the depth. And there's a lot of maturity and experience. Now, you've mentioned that the elite talent is in the lower ranks. Well, that happens all the time. That happens at every team. There's guys that are better at front than the front line, more talented than the frontline starters. Right? Cade Phillips is more talented than the starter that Texas is going to play at cornerback this year, but he doesn't have the experience. That just happens everywhere. To me, that doesn't even matter. But the depth, the experience, the size, and the effort that these guys play with, I'm more excited about the D tackles this year than I was last year.
I think Collins and Brodden were a little better than that. Didn't they go in like the 2nd and 4th round? Is that?
Yeah, and they had length and twitch. They were lengthier and more athletic. I don't think they were as strong at the point of attack, even though they both played with much better leverage as their career went on.
Yeah,
I would say that both probably have more like athletic upside and length, but I don't know that they were better playing their assignments than Cole Brevard against the run. And I will say that Travis Shaw has tremendous upside, especially with once you see a guy like that lose weight, you should get a lot more excited about him. And then we know Murad Watson. If you look at like Peter Woods, obviously is great at Clemson. Is Peter Woods, and I don't know where you have Clemson in the playoffs, but you don't have them winning it. But obviously Peter Woods is an exceptional player. But is Peter Woods better on his 60th snap than Murad Watson on his 29th? I don't know that.
That's a tough question. I don't entirely know. Defensive tackle is another one where Texas is definitely going to be good. As soon as I saw the transfers they were getting, I was like, they're going to be fine here. I don't know if they're going to be quite as like disruptive or game changing. Like there's no Byron Murphy there. Well, there might be a Byron Murphy, but I don't think there's a Byron Murphy on this team. I don't think there's somebody quite as good as Sweat. I don't know if there's anybody quite as like consistently disruptive as Broughton or Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, amongst like the top line guys.
Right. Right.
Rod Watson and Alex January are going to get there.
Yeah. That might be. That's one thing I mentioned about the sack totals this year previously is, those quarterbacks got flushed a lot. Even if Alfred or Burnet didn't complete the play, they were flushed into the waiting arms of the Texas edges and linebackers. So you might have a case there. I just think on a 16-game schedule, what we hope is a 16-game schedule, they have depth and enough playmaking and just the maturity, physical maturity, and the guys work hard. When we start hearing about, two of them are Torrey Becton's two of his 5 favorite players, you don't hear that about D tackles and the competition, the rotation. I'm excited about it. Let's get to this.
Which two are those, real quick? Can you remind me?
That was Hero Canoe and Cole Brevard.
I mean, that's what you want to hear.
Yeah, and then they also love Travis Shaw. He wasn't mentioned as one of the top 5, but he was mentioned within like that group of guys that Becton likes overall. And that shows up in his new and improved look. Usually when that guy's in a contract year. So if you're looking for an Alfred or Vernon breakout in the final year, it's probably Travis Shaw. Here's an interesting disconnect that we have is on the defense. Actually, I thought you would be more bullish on the defense, and it's not that you're down on the defense, but I'm downright excited about the defense. I think it's going to be a top 3 unit in the country. What are your main criticisms of the defense? I know what they are, but for our viewers.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Yeah. So the wide receiver, defensive tackle thing are both like, I think Texas is good for a national championship. I want to see elite. And I don't think they're quite there. But like you've made a case that they might be there a little earlier than I think. And I totally concede that's possible. The secondary just downright scares me. It just straight up scares me. It's not like I want them to be here and they're here. It's like I'm worried they could be here.
Right. This is a huge departure that we have. And I think this is one of our text thread a couple of weeks ago with Connor. And I was like, we've got to get on a video. So, all right, let's get to it.
All right. I like to see another one of my funny little off-season guides and rules is I want to see a secondary have at least 3 guys in the starting lineup in nickel that are athletic and skilled enough to turn and run with a receiver down the field. Because to me, if you have at least 3, then you can face any team and they can put their receivers almost anywhere on the field. And you can kind of move pieces around and match up and not be worried that you're going to get a one-on-one that just kills you down the field for touchdowns. A lot of this comes from just watching the spread in the Big 12 for a long time and seeing what can happen to a team. But nowadays, the SEC is absolutely like that too. And here's a good focal point is just nickel. Nickel is usually where you want that third awesome coverage guy. And it seems, I would guess we'll find out in the coming week, it seems like the plan A at nickel for the start of the season may be we're going to try out this freshman Grayson Littleton.
Mm-hmm.
And I like
now nickel's not one of your space force guys, or are you kind of just saying it's tangential to the corner?
It's I'm almost moving away from wanting a dominant corner these days to saying it's almost better to have like 3 or 4 just really good coverage guys than one dominant guy. I mean, if you have one dominant guy, you want that. That's awesome. But just to be kind of to have no weak links is maybe a little more valuable. And I worry that they're going to be like last year, they had 4 out of 5 guys in the starting lineup that were pretty capable in coverage because Makuba and Gilbo inside were both really
right.
good. Taft could free range, and he could just disguise and just show up in different places and do what he does best. Aaron, the Thorpe Award winner outside. Muhammad was solid. And I'm worried that this year they're going to be – I think Taft and McDonald are both like, if you cover them up, they're going to dominate. But if they get lost in the weeds having to cover guys one-on-one, it's not going to look as good. And then I don't know if Littleton is going to help cover them up.
Yeah. So Littleton, I will say, I think he's going to play a lot against Ohio State. He's right in line with the guys we've heard about in the past, where you hear the second they get on campus, you hear about them, and you hear about them nonstop. And it's happened with a number of guys in the past. Xavier Worthy was one that had a really good freshman year that we heard it about the second he got on grass. But that is a position where experience is very important, and he won't have that no matter what, even if he has every other attribute. But I do like him as a cover player. Jelani McDonald obviously is going to play nickel some, but that's more not what you're talking about because it's not going to be against a spread offense if he's out there, at least more often than not. Yeah. I'm extremely bullish on Manny Muhammad. We've talked about him a lot this offseason, and I've, again, it goes into some confirmation bias that I might have because I thought he was a 3-year player when he came out of high school. He played very well against Ohio State. He had some issues, it said some mental mistakes in the previous playoff games, but he played very well against Ohio State. And I think he's going to be a cover guy that you really don't have to worry about. Second-round draft pick after this season, maybe even sneaks into the force after he surprises everybody with a 4.45. Gilbo, now speed's not the concern there. He can get caught on a double move, and obviously he had some mental errors playing nickel. But I don't think, and I think you probably have this fear that I think is unfounded that people are just going to run past him. He is one of the fastest DBs they have. If people are running past him, they are going to have other troubles. And then something that you have rated for since the second I started reading your football content, who knows how many years ago, is experience in the secondary. And they have quite a bit of that, which I think can cover up. Certainly you can play faster than you are with the more experience you have.
That I love the experience, except for the part where it's like, hey, we may play this freshman in the slot against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I even like Littleton is, I think the reason that he's liable to play there is because he is exactly what I think you want in your nickel.
Right.
Like his Canuto Hudson is like, he's got like the little guy syndrome where he plays really big and vicious, kind of the Vasher Diggs kind of deal.
Yeah. Jahdae Barron.
I love that. That's exactly what I want to hear. We know he's athletic. We know he's like has a mind for the game and takes it super seriously. It's a perfect fit. It's just that it's
early.
He's not been blooded yet.
But here's the thing, Ian. It's such a long season. By the time he's basically a sophomore by the time the SEC championship rolls around.
Then that's the other thing. I feel like that can go one of two ways too, right?
Yeah, the freshman wall, and he's not the biggest kid in the world, right?
There's the freshman wall where by the end of the year he's all beat up and he hasn't added the muscle or the like training and diet regimen things he needs to get through. I wonder if you can think of some examples. I feel like a lot of times when you see the freshmen that are really big in the playoffs, it's because they spent the season like watching and developing behind the scenes, and then they can explode late. I don't know if there's a lot of guys that are great as freshmen and then are in a sprint by the end of the season, but I mean, maybe.
Well, we haven't heard negative things about Wardell Mack. We have just continually hear really positive things about Grayson Littleton. So they do have a little bit of depth there, I think. And then the fail-safe, of course, they can move Jalen Gilbo back to the position. But our intel points, and Ian's on the same page with this, is that's probably not ideal. And they need depth at cornerback no matter what. So even if Kobe Black overtakes Jalen Gilbo, you still need that third corner. Ideally, Warren Roberson would have attached to the star position, and we would be, because he's got all the physical attributes you could possibly want. That just doesn't seem to be in the cards. Another point of my optimism here, Ian, is just in general complementary football. We did not see much of it last year. The defense was often hung out to dry. One of the reasons I'm most excited about this team is I do think that the offense is going to make a jump via bigger plays. Our recent sourcing says that they're going to be more consistent than the offense last year. Obviously, Arch is going to improvise and do some things. And then I'm bullish on the special teams. Do you have any thoughts on complementary football? Is it going to be improved over last year when Texas made the semifinals basically on the strength of the defense?
Yeah, I don't really know how to I don't really know how to measure that at the top level. I mean, it's going to be better. They're going to be less susceptible to things like the Georgia or Arizona State losses for sure, with the ability to pin a team in the punt game and not blow field goals. I think you're actually a little more shickier on the kicker than I am, because he's from Liberty Hill, so of course he's going to be great in my mind.
It's such a mental position. Everybody, we thought Texas had a good kicker going into last year because Bert Auburn had made some big kicks. He was largely efficient, and then you bring in a kid that's been kicking against Mary Hardin Baylor, and now he's got to go kick in the shoe, and he's going to have to kick in Athens at night, and then a bowl game. Yeah, I don't know what to think. He's got a good leg. It's not exactly like he hasn't been lighting the world on fire in practice. I'm absolutely in love with the punter and that ability to flip the field, get a 3 and out, and all of a sudden the offense has the ball again. That's what I'm talking about with complimentary. I don't know. I can't vouch with the kicker though.
One thing that doesn't seem to be in your positive case that I would say is, what if Arch does a little bit of like Riley Leonard plus, and you get into a playoff game and he throws it 35 times and he runs it 15 times. And he has 250 passing, and he has 70 rushing with 2 touchdowns. And
when I put improved playmaking, I'm largely thinking of Arch, not necessarily on the play calls, but Sark is definitely going to call the play. Sark thinks that the mobile quarterback is going to be the answer for the red zone problem. So that's where I think we'll see the most called runs. The Arch playmaking is going to happen on improvisation. They're rolling the pocket a lot more. I think some of that is to give them some open grass, get out of bounds, pick up 10 yards. But yeah, in the playoffs where, if you lose and go home, you can rehab then. They're going to have more Arch running the ball. That's what I think they're going to be. They're going to have a more consistent offense because they'll be able to extend drives in what are going to be frustrating ways for the defense. And then the big playability. I think it's all going to come together. But again, I'm not quite at my read on this team is I'm not as convict. I don't have the same level of conviction on this team as I had the last 2 or 3. But I could see all the parts are there for it to come together.
There's just so many unknowns with young guys that we haven't seen, and we didn't get a spring game.
Well, I don't really need the spring game, but so here's a good one that ties into it. Here's one that ties into what you're talking about. The unknown of proven offensive depth, I think, is a good one that you have. Especially on the offensive line. We've talked about that a lot in the previous weeks, but go ahead and make that point because it's a good one.
Well, I mean, the simplest way, this is not like the most fair way to analyze a team, but if Trevor Gooseby got hurt, how far down does that drop the ceiling for this team?
Yeah, there's no Trevor Gooseby to come in for him like Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams had last year.
Yeah. And now I think you could play this game with most any team, especially if you're like, what if Arch is hurt? What if John Mateer is hurt? What if
Caden Proctor,
Garrett Nussmeier? Bama seems to be a little deeper there, but with this in particular, it looks like the drop off could be precipitous if they lost Gooseby in particular. If they lost Baker, I think maybe they could figure it out, especially if it happened later in the year and they had some time to get Chapman's feet under him or Brooks synced up in the playbook. But Gooseby,
if you go by team-wide depth, Trevor Gooseby is the second most important player in the program. I would have to agree with that. There's no doubt about it. Here's a big difference that we have is, and it's funny when you were giving your points, your contrarian points to why Texas isn't going to win the national championship. And by the way, the burden of proof is much tougher on Ian because we are talking to a Texas fan base. If we were talking to an Alabama fan base, I would be the one that would be getting heckled. So let's take it easy on Ian and argue his points, not his overall stance. You said there are national teams that look stronger, and part of my optimism for Texas is I think Texas has the best roster cycle in the country, despite the offensive depth issues. A lot of that is my faith in Arch Manning being good to perhaps great. At minimum, he's going to be good. At minimum, I think quarterback is upgraded fairly obviously over last year, and all the other things that Arch brings to the table, the +1 in the run game, the ability to throw the ball over the top. His playmaking is going to make for a very large field to defend. I think Texas is on a sensational roster cycle, and you tend to think 2026 is better. But tell me which team set up better than Texas does and why.
probably the thing I did that enraged our awesome subscribers the most, and maybe you too, is that I had.
Yeah, you've only enraged me like once or twice. That one time you tried to break some news that I wasn't ready to break. Remember that the Alabama player was coming over? I was like, I don't know that for sure. You had it in your write up that he was there. And I was like, what the hell?
Oh
are you doing?
yeah.
You can't enrage me, Ian.
Maybe when you saw the Michigan flight price.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I waited too long to buy it. Well, what I did that definitely made some people mad is I had Texas and Auburn with roughly comparable outcomes of the season, which is people saying that I've equated Texas and Auburn as being roughly comparable as teams this coming year, which actually I think is possible. But I more just had it like, I think like Texas is secondary and just being just quite here, not here, leads to them losing like probably in the second round of the playoffs, depending on the draws. And I think I had the way my bracket fell out, Auburn had like a very similar outcome. And so people are just like, you
with a quarterback that you have absolutely dogged on.
Yeah. Well, he's not a Sooner anymore.
Hey, he's got Hugh Freeze. He's got Hugh Freeze, right? I mean,
I'm not sure at all about Jackson, because Jackson Arnold, as I said, from coming out of Geyer, I was like, his process is slow. He's got a big arm, so he likes to wait to see it before he throws. This is like so many toolsy quarterbacks fall into this trap, and they don't develop the quick anticipation and processing because they don't have to in high school.
And the networks fall for it too. They see the seductive big arm and tend to overrate for it. Yep.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how consistently they do that.
He is a tough kid, though.
He's fast. I was watching him against LSU a couple of weeks ago when Oklahoma played LSU, and he started just scrambling and keeping some Oklahoma drives going by scrambling, and he's pretty athletic. And then he tried one, and one of those Weeks brothers caught him on the corner and suplexed him into the dirt. And I was like, okay, I wonder if this puts an end to Arnold scrambling today. And then what I noticed was that he actually kept it up and kept another couple drives going, but he was more intentional about sliding from then on.
So this is Auburn is proof positive that you are really, really infatuated with wide receivers at this point in your life.
Yeah. Because they got Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton.
Yeah.
I think Freeze can get Arnold up to the level he needs to be. It is his third year now, which is a big deal. I don't know for sure if he can fix Arnold. Brent Venables may have broken him forever, or he may have just never had quite the processing you need to be a reliable quarterback. But I also think it's possible Arnold will just like scramble his way out of problems and just make it work just by being tough and bullheaded.
Right. Auburn's not winning the national championship. We agree.
No,
I think I saw the odds on.
I didn't pick Auburn to win the national championship. I just had them in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. Very close to Texas. You have them in the playoffs. But I think I saw the odds on ESPN were 2,300 to 1 to win the SEC, and that's not really what I would imagine of a playoff team. But so, well, here, who are the teams that you think? All right, Texas, they're on a better roster cycle than Texas.
So I picked Alabama to win. I was leaning Clemson most of the offseason with Alabama as a maybe. And I was actually watching Tom Allen, the new Clemson defensive coordinator. I was watching how he defended Oregon last year in the Big Ten Championship. And I was like, I think I'm going to lean Alabama over this guy. I think he's going to raise their competence on defense way beyond what it was last year when it was terrible. And they let Jaden Blue run for like 500 yards.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not ready to put them over.
Paul made a good point about Clemson, and everybody talks about the lack of bringing in portals, but if you're not bringing in portals, you're not exiling guys that are not going to play for you. So your functional depth isn't nearly as good. Your roster's not nearly as strong because you're not churning the bottom of the roster, and that's going to show up in depth. I think Paul made a very astute point there. It makes a lot of sense. The thing about Alabama, you know what everybody's going to say, so you've got to address the elephant in the room. But it does fall into your rubric of having a bus driver.
Yeah, Ty Simpson, everybody, I think people have he played in like 2023, right? They benched.
Yeah. Well,
game.
He came in, I think he was from Nashville. He had really fun tape, kind of a runaround guy. But he had been viewed as a disappointment for much of it. A lot of people thought he was going to transfer. And then they brought in Austin Mack. Kalen DeBoer brought Austin Mack with them from Washington, a highly rated quarterback. And at the time, I thought, well, that's the end of Ty Simpson and Bama. But I'll say it is a feather in your cap that Ty Simpson has held off Austin Mack, so that we know that I think he's going to be at least good. And you don't have to be great, like you mentioned. He's got really good wide receivers, most notably Ryan Williams, who is basically like a faster Garrett Wilson. He can make play on the ball no matter where it is. But what went wrong last year? Obviously Jalen Milroe was an issue. Kalen DeBoer first year. Kalen DeBoer is a great coach. He got Sark's number once, you might say twice, with that Alamo Bowl. Give me a break. Texas had all kinds of guys sitting out. They barely practiced. What happened in year one that's going to be fixed in year two?
Well, I think year one was impossible. He's replacing Nick Saban.
It's tough.
He's playing in like the SEC in the South for the first time in his career. He's got Saban like in an office down the hall. He's got an enormous portal exodus. Everybody was able to pick over Alabama's roster for anybody that was not sure about.
Not a ton, but they were really good. The ones he lost were really good, right?
Lost a bunch of really good ones. I think he lost a lot in general. Maybe not. I feel like it was pretty high numbers.
Downs in itself is a huge loss. They brought in Keon Sabb, I believe, and he's good.
He got hurt. He missed almost the whole year. And also Jalen Milroe was not the ideal quarterback to unlock what DeBoer does best or what Ryan Williams can do. So I think that somebody was like, Ian, you think that the Alabama offense will be just as efficient as last year when they had third-round pick Jalen Milroe? I was like, no, I think they're going to be a lot better.
Yeah, I think they're going to be more efficient too. Jalen Milroe was way too hit or miss, and there was a lot more misses, and it seemed like he got in his own head at times. And they, but this team just lost to OU on the road. There's a lot of these guys. It's like they have to learn how to win all over again. They had some pretty big issues. They lost to Vanderbilt. I don't care what kind of turnover you have at Alabama. It's not like it's one of these Mike Shula teams. They have to learn how to win all over again. Essentially,
they were bad at times in the secondary last year.
Yeah, terrible.
They were super duper young. They had like a true freshman corner. They had a USC transfer.
Yeah,
and they had to play that kid Bray Hubbard. They had to play him for Saab when Saab got injured, and he ended up being really good.
Are Georgia fans here?
Yeah, well, they should be from what I've said about Georgia for this year. But I think their secondary is going to be way better. I think last year their secondary was like limited to the point where it was prohibitive, and they lost that Vanderbilt game because they didn't know what they were doing on defense yet. And they let Diego Pavia just completely put them in a blender.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be way better there. The overall roster, they still have some of those Saban defensive tackles around that have developed. They have their secondary is ready. They still have some of those Saban linebackers around, even though they lost Jahad Campbell. I think Simpson in his fourth year with 2 years of tutelage under DeBoer is going to be a lot better. I think Ryan Williams is going to be a lot better, and he's actually going to get the ball more.
Do you think Simpson's going to be a better quarterback than Arch Manning this year?
No. He might be a lot. I mean, people think he's going to be terrible.
Yeah,
I think he may be a lot closer to Arch than people realize. But I'm not gonna say that he's going to be that good.
I'm not sure Kalen DeBoer is capable of having a terrible quarterback. So I do have some trust in him being a bus driver. I don't think that Bama, but not the type of bus driver that can get him over the line to win a national championship. I can't see that happening. I don't think that Bama has quite the pieces that they once did. Certainly at wide receiver, they've had worse units to win national championships than what they have. There was a different era. They've got the wide receivers to do it, no doubt about that. I don't think they have the playmakers on defense they once did. They do have a strong nucleus of defensive players. There's no doubt about that. I don't think they're special. Like they used to have special guys that would just change the game on defense. I don't think they really have that level anymore. Who else do you think is on a better roster cycle than Texas?
I think Texas is like in a second tier where there's like a bunch of really good but potentially flawed teams that I don't think are just going to quite do it. Like LSU, I really like, but I think
even on defense,
they what?
even on defense.
See, I think they have a couple players that I think might be really good up until they play an offense like their own.
Harold Perkins. You love Harold Perkins.
I think Harold Perkins is going to look really good in some games this year.
Yeah,
I don't think the Clemson game is going to be one of them.
Right. Yeah, they're going to lose that game. We all know they're going to lose that game in the fourth quarter.
You see, they got Halsey too. That kid that was at Houston last year that we heard about could maybe go for Texas. He's like a 220-pound safety.
Yeah.
And when he's playing in the box, it's like, oh, this guy's awesome. But then you watch him move around in space, and you're like, huh?
Yeah, that's why Texas passed on him.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got LSU ahead of Texas in the SEC, and you've got Auburn neck and neck with Texas. See, that's just the disconnect I have. You don't think Texas will make it to the semifinals, but a function of that is where you have them in the draw of the playoffs of being 8. I have Texas going to the semifinals at minimum, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have them winning it all when it's all said and done. You got any parting shots on this? Where am I wrong overall? What's my biggest point of failure?
I think people are a little too assuming. I think people are just too positive about the defense, given that the secondary lost 2 of the more skilled defensive backs we've seen at Texas in the last 10 years.
Right. My counter to that would be, and I think this extends the offense, is that you're not accounting for team football on that side of the ball. The pass rush, the positive returns of the pass rush are going to help out. They don't have the individual unique talent of Makuba to go get 5 or Jahdae Barron to go get 5 picks, but I think the pass rush is going to be very good. Do you think they're going to beat Ohio State?
I think that they are. I'm leaning back towards yes, because I just think Ryan Day, if he focused on the right things, could win this game. But I think he's going to be just
that's proof that you don't see the defense like I do, because I can't see a true freshman, or not a true freshman, a first-time starter, no matter how talented he is, winning that game in his first career start. To me, that seems crazy to even think about. It's not impossible, but I see Texas getting that win. And then I don't think you're accounting for team football on the potential for positive returns. Like the run game is going to be better than last year, or at least the running back talent is better than last year, right? Do you believe in the interior run game, like what we were talking about, vertical run, vertical throw, kind of what Sark wants, where last year everything was way too horizontal?
I think the offense is going to be meaningfully better than last year, and if this team wins the championship and everybody gets to dunk on me, I think it'll be because everything you just said, and because Wingo and Livingston are ready. And so they are able to score with anybody. Littleton, Mack, Gilbo, it doesn't even matter, because they can go beat a Clemson 45-38 if they have to.
Yeah, and here's the proof where I think Texas is on the roster cycle this year. I think, Ian, you're more bullish on 2026, assuming Arch comes back, of course. I am. I'm probably more bullish this season, just because I do think it sets up better. Like I don't see Ohio State winning the national championship. Last year, you and I both had Ohio State beating Texas in the national championship, I think.
I think so.
And everybody thought, well, not everybody, but a lot of people thought we were crazy because they couldn't see Will Howard winning a national championship. Yeah. That was a function of having so much talent around him. I think Ohio State is going to be really, really good in 2026 again. And Texas is going to lose a lot of defense. It's kind of odd to me to see that you're more bullish on 2026 and I'm more bullish on 2025. Oh man! Hopefully by mid-October, whenever they avenge that loss in November, we get back on the same. We're on parallel tracks together once again, holding hands like Thelma and Louise. I miss those days. I want my friend back.
If they stomp Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout, I will prance across a field of daisies with you. But I'll be ready.
It sounds good. I appreciate. I don't know if Homer's coming back in. Oh, there he's gonna.
That's a hell of a battle, gentlemen. Hell of a battle. Unfortunately, it is a mistrial. Neither one of you are lawyers, but we can continue the debate at InsideTexas.com. You guys can argue Eric's points, Ian's points, all that stuff, both on this video thread. All of our video threads are posted on the board, or also just throughout. Guys, it's the best place for team news, analysis, recruiting. Come sign up. You can get Inside Texas for $1 for your first week. As a bonus, your membership includes a complimentary year to The Athletic. We also want to see you on our big 40th anniversary tour. Tuesday, Houston, Wednesday, Dallas, Thursday, back in Austin. All the descriptions, addresses, things you need are in the description below. Also, our very own Paul Wadlington, he has his 2025 Longhorn Football Prospectus, Thinking Texas Football. It is the #1 preview for your favorite team, as well as an SEC preview. Eric does a recruiting piece, and Paul goes into the minutia of the modern NIL roster management era. You guys need to pick that up. Fun conversation. I'm glad we got to do it, guys. I know fans have been asking for it. Everyone, thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday.